The crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across the ballroom as I adjusted my tie, watching my wife work the room. She moved through the crowd with practiced grace, her champagne glass constantly refilled by attentive waiters. This gala was supposed to be her night, a celebration of her impending promotion to Vice President of Operations. I'd spent weeks helping her prepare the presentation that had sealed the deal. There he is. Her voice cut through the elegant murmur of conversation, louder than it should have been. I turned to see her gesturing dramatically in my direction, surrounded by a cluster of senior executives and their spouses. My husband, everyone. My dear, devoted husband. Something in her tone made my stomach tighten. I'd noticed she'd been drinking more than usual, her laugh growing progressively sharper as the evening wore on. I made my way over, forcing a smile. We were just talking about the keys to success, she continued, her words slightly slurred. And I was sharing my biggest lesson learned. She took another long sip of champagne, her eyes glittering with something I couldn't quite identify. Anger. Resentment. Marrying him was my biggest mistake, so I learned to succeed in spite of it, not because of it. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched the color drain from our CFO's face. His wife's mouth formed a small O of shock. Even the VP of Marketing, known for his inappropriate jokes, looked uncomfortable. Excuse me. I managed to keep my voice steady, though my heart was pounding. Oh, don't look so shocked, she waved her hand dismissively. Everyone here knows it. You're dead weight. Always have been. While I was climbing the corporate ladder, what were you doing? Playing house? Supporting my career. She made air quotes around the last two words. I could have been VP 2 years ago if I hadn't been dragging you along. I saw our director of HR, Jennifer, approaching from across the room, concern etched on her features. She'd obviously overheard. You know what the worst part is? My wife wasn't finished. I actually thought you'd be useful. A partner, they said. Someone to share the burden with. But you're just there, taking up space in my life, in my house, spending my money. I think you've had enough to drink, I said quietly, reaching for her glass. She jerked it away, some of the champagne sloshing onto her designer dress. Don't you dare tell me what to do. You don't get to tell me anything. You're nothing. You hear me? Nothing. Just a mistake I haven't gotten around to fixing yet. The crowd had grown larger now, people drawn by the spectacle. I could see phones being subtly positioned, probably recording. This would be all over the office by morning. I looked at my wife, really looked at her. Her face was flushed with alcohol and anger, her carefully applied makeup beginning to run slightly at the corners of her eyes. This woman I'd supported through graduate school, through her first major project failure, through her father's death. The woman I'd rearranged my entire career for, taking the remote position so she could accept the transfer to headquarters. The woman who'd promised just 6 months ago that once she made VP, things would be different, better. I see, I said simply. Something in my tone must have registered because her expression flickered, uncertainty crossing her features for just a moment. I'm going to leave now, I continued, my voice calm and clear. Jennifer, I apologize for this disruption to what should have been a professional celebration. I'll be withdrawing my attendance from the remainder of the evening. Of course, Jennifer said quickly, her eyes darting between us. Perhaps we should all. No need, I interrupted gently. Please, everyone, continue enjoying your evening. Congratulations on your achievements. They are well deserved. I turned and walked toward the exit, my head high, refusing to rush despite the burning desire to run. Behind me, I heard someone trying to guide my wife toward a chair, her protests echoing across the ballroom. The cool night air hit my face as I stepped outside, and I pulled out my phone. Tomorrow, everything would change. I woke up at dawn on the couch in our home office, my phone already buzzing with messages. I'd spent most of the night documenting everything I could remember from the party, timestamping my notes, and reviewing our financial accounts. Years of supporting someone in corporate leadership had taught me one thing: documentation was everything. The house was silent. She was probably still asleep upstairs, dead to the world after the amount she'd drunk. I made coffee and opened my laptop, pulling up the email I drafted at 3 a.m. to jennifer.morrison@company.com. CC, David Chen, legal@company.com. Subject, formal complaint, professional conduct incident. I read through it once more. It was factual, unemotional, and detailed. I described the public humiliation, noted the presence of senior leadership and clients, and mentioned the visible recording by multiple attendees. I didn't embellish. I didn't need to. At 6:47 a.m., I hit send. By 7:15, my phone rang. Jennifer, I'm so sorry about last night, she began. I want you to know that behavior was completely unacceptable. I appreciate that, Jennifer. I'm sure you understand why I felt the need to document this formally. There was a pause. I do. And I need to be honest with you, this isn't the first concern we've had about her behavior. There have been incidents with subordinates, comments that bordered on hostile work environment territory. We've been monitoring the situation. My grip tightened on the phone. I wasn't aware. No, you wouldn't be. It's confidential. But last night, in front of executives and clients. She sighed. The promotion announcement was premature. It hadn't been formally approved yet. Given this situation, and the previous concerns, we're going to need to conduct a review. I understand. There's something else, Jennifer continued carefully. Several people recorded video last night. It's already circulating internally. The optics are not good. For her or for the company. After we hung up, I stood at the window watching the sunrise paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Upstairs, I heard movement. She was awake. I climbed the stairs slowly. She was in the bathroom, leaning over the sink, looking grey and miserable. What happened? She croaked. I feel like death. You don't remember. She turned to look at me, confusion in her bloodshot eyes. Remember what? The party was last night, right? God, I must have really celebrated hard. Did I embarrass myself? I pulled out my phone and played one of the videos someone had sent me. I watched her face as she listened to her own voice. Marrying him was my biggest mistake. The color drained from her face. Oh God, no. That's not, I didn't mean. You meant it, I said calmly. Drunk words are sober thoughts, isn't that what they say? No, listen, it was the stress, and the drinks, and, she stumbled toward me, reaching for my arm. I stepped back. Jennifer from HR called this morning. Your promotion is suspended pending a professional conduct review. Apparently, last night wasn't your first incident. Just your most public one. She stared at me, mouth opening and closing. What did you do? What did I do? I couldn't help the bitter laugh. I filed a formal complaint. I documented what happened. I protected myself, since you made it clear you have no interest in protecting me. You bastard. You're trying to sabotage my career. No, I said quietly. You did that yourself. I'm just making sure there's a record of it. Her phone started ringing. Then mine. Then hers again. The office was waking up, and the fallout was beginning. I walked back downstairs and into the home office, pulling out the suitcase I'd retrieved from the garage at 5 a.m. I began packing my things, laptop, files, the few personal items I kept in this room. She appeared in the doorway. What are you doing? What does it look like? You can't just leave. We need to talk about this. We need to figure out how to fix this. Fix what, exactly? Your career? Your reputation? Or the marriage you publicly declared was your biggest mistake? I was drunk. People say things they don't mean when they're drunk. I zipped the suitcase closed and looked at her directly. Do you love me? She blinked. What? Simple question. Do you love me? Do you respect me? Do you actually want to be married to me? The pause before she answered told me everything I needed to know. Of course I do. It's just complicated right now with work and... Stop. I held up my hand. Just stop. I've given you 12 years. I've moved 3 times for your career. I've been your unpaid assistant, your therapist, your cheerleader. And last night, you told a room full of people that I'm nothing. The morning sun streaming through the windows felt harsh and unforgiving as I loaded the last box into my car. Each trip from the house had been punctuated by her following me, alternating between tears and anger, apologies and accusations. Now she stood in the driveway, makeup-free and disheveled, a far cry from the polished executive who'd commanded the room just hours before. "Where are you even going to go?" she demanded, her voice hoarse from crying and, I suspected, her hangover. "My brother's place. He's been renovating his basement apartment. It's available." "Your brother's basement? You're going to throw away our marriage to live in a basement like some divorced loser?" I closed the trunk carefully, methodically. "I'm not throwing away our marriage. You did that last night. I'm just acknowledging reality." My phone buzzed. Another message in the growing thread from colleagues and friends who'd been at the gala. Most were supportive, horrified by what they'd witnessed. A few were from her friends, asking what I'd done to provoke her, suggesting I was overreacting. I'd stopped responding an hour ago. "This is about the promotion, isn't it?" Her tone shifted, calculating now. "You couldn't handle that I was going to be VP, that I'd be making 3 times what you make. You needed to bring me down. Is that what you actually believe? What else am I supposed to think? The timing is awfully convenient. Right when I'm about to." "You're not, though." I cut her off. "You're not about to become VP. Your promotion is suspended, remember? And according to Jennifer, there's a strong possibility it will be withdrawn entirely." She wrapped her arms around herself. "They can't do that. I've worked too hard. I've earned this. You humiliated yourself and the company in front of clients and senior leadership. You created a hostile situation in a public setting. And apparently, this wasn't your first incident." I studied her face. "How bad has it been? The things Jennifer mentioned, what have you been doing?" "Nothing. I've been doing my job, being a strong leader. If people can't handle direct feedback..." "What people? What feedback?" She looked away. "There might have been a few complaints. Oversensitive millennials who can't handle criticism. HR has to investigate every little thing these days." "This isn't little things, is it? How long have you known your promotion was in jeopardy?" Her silence answered me. "How long?" I pressed. 3 weeks, she finally admitted. "They told me there were concerns about my management style. That I needed to show better judgment. Last night was supposed to be my chance to prove I could handle myself in high-pressure social situations with grace." I almost laughed. "And instead, you got drunk and publicly eviscerated your husband." "I'm sorry." The words exploded out of her. "Okay. I'm sorry. I was stressed and scared and I drank too much and I said terrible things. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I can apologize to everyone. We can." "Do you even hear yourself? You're not sorry about what you said. You're sorry about the consequences. That's not fair. Isn't it? Because you still haven't actually addressed what you said. You called me dead weight. You said marrying me was your biggest mistake. You told an entire room of people that I'm nothing." My voice remained steady, though my hands were trembling. "And the thing is, I don't even think you were lying." She took a step toward me. "I didn't mean it. You know I didn't mean it." "Then why did you say it? Why those specific words?" "I don't know. I was trying to be funny, or impressive, or honest." I leaned against my car. "When did I become someone you resent? When did supporting you become something you're ashamed of?" A car pulled up to the curb, my brother, arriving to follow me to his place as backup. He stayed in his vehicle, giving us space, but his presence seemed to make everything more real. "You have to understand," she said desperately. At work, I'm surrounded by these power couples. Both executives, both making huge salaries, both climbing the ladder. And when they ask about you, when they want to arrange couples dinners, I have to explain that you work from home, that you're not. Not what? Not impressive enough? Not successful enough? Not in the same world. The admission burst out of her. You're a good person, you're smart, but you're content with your little remote job and your hobbies and your simple life. And I'm not. I want more. I need more. Then why didn't you just say so? Why didn't we talk about this like adults instead of you humiliating me in public? Because I knew how it would sound. I knew I'd look like the shallow, ambitious bitch who married beneath her and finally admitted it. That's exactly how you look now. Except worse, because everyone saw you do it while drunk at a company event. Her phone rang again. She glanced at it, the CEO's office, and declined the call. I can't deal with this right now. You're going to have to. They're not going to just let this go. 3 days later, I was settled into my brother's basement apartment, surrounded by hastily unpacked boxes, when my phone rang with an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. This is Robert Fitzgerald, General Counsel for the company. I'm calling regarding the incident at last week's gala. Do you have time to speak? I sat down heavily on my borrowed couch. Of course. First, I want to apologize on behalf of the organization. What happened was unacceptable, and we take it very seriously. I've reviewed your formal complaint, spoken with witnesses, and examined the video evidence. I need to ask you some questions, if that's all right. For the next 45 minutes, I walked through every detail. He asked about our relationship history, whether there had been incidents at previous company events, what I knew about her behavior at work. I answered honestly, including things that made me uncomfortable to admit. Yes, she'd sometimes come home and made disparaging comments about employees. Yes, I'd noticed she'd been drinking more over the past year. Yes, she'd mentioned being frustrated with people who couldn't keep up with her standards. Has she contacted you since you filed the complaint? Multiple times. Texts, calls, emails. She showed up here yesterday. And I told her we should communicate through attorneys from this point forward. I've retained a divorce lawyer. A pause. I see. I appreciate your candor. I need to inform you that we've completed our preliminary investigation. Your wife has been placed on administrative leave pending the final phase of our review. Given the severity of the situation and the previous documented concerns, termination is being considered. My stomach dropped despite everything. Termination? I didn't want her to lose her job. I just wanted. I understand, but this goes beyond the incident with you. We've uncovered a pattern of behavior that creates liability for the company. 3 formal complaints were filed by subordinates in the past 18 months that were still being monitored. She allegedly created a hostile work environment through public criticism, unrealistic demands, and what several people described as verbal abuse. I didn't know it was that bad. Most partners don't. But your complaint, combined with the very public nature of the gala incident, forced our hand. We can't ignore this anymore. After we hung up, I sat in the dim basement, processing. My phone buzzed, a text from her. They're going to fire me. Are you happy now? You've destroyed everything. Before I could respond, another text. 12 years. I gave you 12 years and this is how you repay me. Then another. My lawyer says I can take you for everything in the divorce. You contributed nothing to our financial situation. Nothing. I turned off my phone. That evening, my brother came downstairs with 2 beers and his tablet. You need to see this. He showed me an article on a corporate gossip website. Tech company VP candidate put on leave after viral party meltdown. There was a blurred screenshot from one of the videos, her face recognizable despite the pixelation. The comments section was brutal. It's everywhere, my brother said. LinkedIn, Twitter, even TikTok. Someone made it into a meme about toxic bosses. God. I took a long drink of beer. Her career is over, you know. Even if they don't fire her, who's going to hire her after this? I didn't want this. I just wanted. I don't even know what I wanted. You wanted respect. You wanted to not be publicly humiliated by someone who promised to love and honor you. My brother sat down beside me. You know what I remember? Your wedding. Her vows. She talked about partnership, about you being her anchor, about how grateful she was to have found someone who supported her dreams. People change. Yeah, they do. But you didn't deserve what she did. And honestly, based on what that lawyer said, a lot of other people didn't deserve how she treated them either. The next morning, I met with my divorce attorney, a sharp woman in her 50s who'd come highly recommended. I've reviewed the prenup you signed, she said, sliding the document across her desk. It's fairly standard, but there's something interesting. The infidelity clause goes both ways, and it includes emotional abuse and public humiliation as grounds for invalidating the financial protections. Meaning the video evidence of her behavior could be argued as abuse, which means you might be entitled to more than the minimum the prenup guarantees. She leaned back. That said, pursuing that angle would be ugly. Public. Are you prepared for that? I don't want her money. I never did. Even though you relocated 3 times for her career. Even though you took a lesser position to accommodate her ambitions. Even though you're the one who maintained the household while she climbed the ladder. I stared at the document. What do you recommend? I recommend you stop thinking like her support staff and start thinking like her partner. You made sacrifices. You're entitled to recognition of that. 6 weeks after the gala, I sat in a conference room at my attorney's office, waiting for my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, to arrive for our mediation session. Through the window, early spring was trying to break through winter's grip, buds forming on bare branches. My attorney reviewed her notes. Remember, stay calm. Don't engage emotionally. We have a strong position. The door opened. She walked in looking diminished somehow, despite her expensive suit and carefully applied makeup. Her attorney, a man who radiated aggressive competence, followed close behind. We sat on opposite sides of the table. Let's begin, the mediator said. I understand both parties are hoping to reach a settlement agreement today regarding the dissolution of the marriage. Her attorney spoke first. My client believes this entire situation has been orchestrated by her husband to damage her career and extract a favorable financial settlement. She maintains that one incident of poor judgment, while regrettable, doesn't justify the extreme measures taken. One incident. I couldn't help myself. She was placed on administrative leave for multiple violations of company policy. She was ultimately terminated for cause. The gala wasn't one incident, it was the last incident. Which happened after she'd been drinking heavily, her attorney countered. At an event where alcohol was freely provided by her employer. One could argue they bear some responsibility. My attorney cleared her throat. Let's address the actual issues. My client relocated 3 times for his wife's career, taking positions below his qualification level to accommodate her ambitions. He maintained their household, managed their personal affairs, and supported her through multiple career transitions. The prenuptial agreement was signed under the assumption of an equitable partnership. The evidence suggests otherwise. The prenup is clear. The prenup has an abuse clause that my client intends to invoke. We have video evidence of public humiliation. We have documented testimony of emotional abuse. We have evidence of financial control and verbal degradation. She flinched. I never abused him. You told a room full of people that marrying him was your biggest mistake, my attorney said calmly. You called him nothing. You've sent approximately 300 text messages over the past 6 weeks that range from threatening to manipulative. Would you like me to read some aloud? Those were sent during an emotional time. You're going to regret destroying me. I'll make sure everyone knows what you really are. That was March 15th. You're a parasite who lived off my success and then bit the hand that fed you. March 18th. Should I continue? The mediator intervened. Perhaps we should focus on reaching an agreement rather than relitigating the past. 2 hours later, we'd hammered out the basics. The house would be sold, proceeds split 60-40 in my favor. I'd receive a portion of her 401k, recognition of my career sacrifices. She'd keep her car, I'd keep mine. No alimony in either direction. There's one more thing, I said. I want it stated in the agreement that the dissolution of this marriage was due to irreconcilable differences stemming from her actions at the March 3rd company event and subsequent revelations about behavior patterns inconsistent with the partnership we'd agreed to. Absolutely not, her attorney said. That's prejudicial and unnecessary. It's the truth. And without it, there's no agreement. She looked at me then, really looked at me. Why are you doing this? Haven't you hurt me enough? Hurt you? The question was so absurd I almost laughed. I'm protecting myself. I'm ensuring there's a record of what actually happened, because you've spent 6 weeks trying to rewrite history, telling people I sabotaged you, that I was secretly resentful of your success, that I engineered this whole thing. Because you did. If you hadn't filed that complaint. If I hadn't filed that complaint, you'd still be abusing your employees. You'd still be drinking too much. You'd still be treating me like an embarrassing accessory you wished you could discard. I leaned forward. I didn't destroy your career. Your behavior did. Your choices did. I just refused to pretend it wasn't happening anymore. Silence filled the room. Finally, she spoke, her voice small. I did love you, you know. In the beginning. I know. I loved you too. But love isn't enough when there's no respect. No partnership. No basic human decency. The mediator sensed an opening. If we include language about mutual acknowledgement that the marriage ended due to both parties' inability to maintain the partnership they'd envisioned, would that be acceptable? After more negotiation, we agreed. The divorce would be final in 90 days. As we prepared to leave, she stopped me in the hallway. I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my marriage. Was it worth it? Whatever point you were trying to make. I wasn't trying to make a point. I was trying to survive. I've been in therapy, she said quietly, since the termination. My therapist thinks I was having a breakdown. The pressure, the drinking, the way I treated people, she says it was all connected. That I was spiraling. I hope therapy helps you. Does it matter? My career is over. I'm unhireable. That video follows me everywhere. You'll rebuild. You're talented and intelligent. But you need to address why you became someone who treated people that way. And you? You'll just move on? Find someone new? Forget this ever happened? I thought about the question. I'll move forward. I'll remember what I learned. And maybe eventually, I'll be able to trust someone again. 6 months later, I stood in a small apartment I'd rented, no longer in my brother's basement. I'd accepted a new position, a promotion, actually, with a different company that appreciated my skills. The apartment wasn't much, but it was mine. My phone buzzed with a text from my brother. Dinner this weekend? Want you to meet someone. I smiled. Life was simpler now. Quieter. I cooked my own meals, managed my own schedule, and answered to no one. Sometimes late at night, I thought about the years I'd spent supporting someone else's dreams. I didn't regret them. They'd taught me what I needed, what I deserved. I'd heard through mutual friends that she'd moved to another city, was working as a consultant. That she'd gotten sober, was still in therapy. I hoped it was true. I hoped she'd found some peace. As for me, I was learning to build a life where I wasn't just someone's supporting character, where my worth wasn't measured by how well I enabled someone else's ambitions, where I wasn't nothing. I was learning to be enough, all by myself. And that, I discovered, was everything.